Okay. Please.
I wrote that anybody who didn't sign an NDA, DM me, and I'm ready to start.
Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is awesome to kick off at 7:04. That's really great timing for such an amount of people.
Come on.
Woo! Yay!
Okay, this is good. This is a good start.
Yeah. You are in the Women Techmakers JavaScript crash course. Women Techmakers is a Google program to increase diversity. If you want to read more, go to womentechmakers.com. If you want to know more about Berlin branch, wtmberlin.com. We were founded in 2015. We have over 1,000 members. We had this year 30 events. Since we started about 80, which is about 3 events a month. We have study groups like this. We have other cool events like Fireside Chats, where we once a month go to a company in Berlin, speak with we have a panel of the women who work there who share their story, and we get to ask them questions on how they started and how can we do the cool stuff that they're doing. We do networking events, and we love to have our attendees get internships, get tickets to all kinds of conferences, and also get connected to mentors in the field that they start in or progress in or want to step in. You have the Slack channel, which is a great way to communicate. If you need any type of help in around tech things, please write. I'm an organizer. There are 9 of us. Some of the organizers will come during these events. You'll spot them easily. Talk to them. Say, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you help me? We'll do our best to help you. This JavaScript course is one of the ways we help our community. And as you see, we're open and inclusive community. We like to accept women, men, and people of other genders as well. This is how you can be in touch with us. This is Facebook, Twitter, Slack, website, Meetup. And we have projects from our past study groups on GitHub. We'd love to see your contributions there as well. You should upload your projects to your personal GitHub. And if you feel like sharing it publicly, we'd love to have it on our GitHub as well. Please, no excuses that there's no way to reach us. This was supposed to be last week, but it's not. And yeah, this is it. I would like to introduce you our head of instructors. His name is Alman, and he's head of engineering at UNU. And he's a really awesome JavaScript developer. Let's say thank you for giving the time.
Thank you. Thanks.
And maybe we can also introduce our instructors team.
Yes, we can.
All the instructors, guys, come here.
Yeah. Who are in our secret channel in Slack. There are a couple of people. I saw Ilkay there.
Don't be shy, don't be shy, go stand next to Arman.
Come here. And I have Mart with me.
Start asking you questions. This is not the time to hide. We already signed up. Well.
Yay.
Good.
So, yeah, some people here are from UNU, some are my other friends, some are new friends that I just get to meet. Hello, it's Armand. Hello. Yay. And basically we'll be around the course and we'll have other people as well throughout the 8 weeks to help you out with JavaScript. And yeah, I know some of the guys here personally that they are great engineers either with JavaScript or with other stuff. So you will see all of us in our Slack channel in Slack, womentechmakers.berlin.com. So is anybody not in Slack? All right, cool. Just sign up and log into Slack and that will be our main communication channel, and you'll find us there 7/24, especially I'll be there. So if you have any questions about anything, please ask, and we will do our best to help you. I'm stationary, I'll be here all the 8 weeks, but some of these guys will just rotate because they have lives and they have some busy schedules. So they're just here on a voluntary basis, and I thank all of them. Please a round of applause. Thank you. And so this is basically an interactive course, especially for this week. There is no presentation, there is no slides that I'm going through that I will bore you with. So it's hands-on stuff that we will do some coding, and therefore my friends will go around and help you with your problems, your bugs in your software. And I first would like to start by asking a couple of questions. The first question is, who did not do programming before? One, two, come on. Who did not do programming before? Please keep your hands up. Don't be shy. Up, 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 up. Yay, perfect, okay. All right, who did not program JavaScript before? Cool, that's great. So this is an interactive thing. Don't be afraid that I have the microphone. We will all talk. I want you all to talk, so please give me some ideas of programming languages that you've used, because like we have 4 or 5 people who didn't program before. Obviously, some other people use some other languages, but we're all here to learn JavaScript. So what is the general experience like? Did you do HTML? Did you do CSS? Did you do PHP, Ruby? Just raise your hand and please shout. Yeah?
Flex and action scripts.
ActionScript, amazing. Hello. It's been some time.
Yeah.
And you want to get back to programming?
Well, programming, yeah, but
Not ActionScript. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Ruby, HTML, CSS.
Perfect. And you want to go to JavaScript. Anyone else? Yeah, please. Python and R. Okay. So are you a data scientist? Why not MATLAB? Why not MATLAB?
I started with more.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyone else who had other programming experience before and is just new to JavaScript? Please don't be shy. We're all new here. Please. Yeah. You were doing PHP before. Okay. And anyone else? Please raise your hand and raise your voice. Please. Yeah.
Like a very proprietary one from special forms that are supposed to dynamics now. It's like similar to Pascal.
Wow. Okay. Respect. Respect. There was another hand here. Yeah. Python. Okay. All right. So obviously this is a very opinionated course. I love JavaScript, I love Node.js, and this course is designed to teach you Node.js and JavaScript as a backend language. So we will not do HTML or CSS, we will not do front-end stuff, but this is a backend course where we will learn how to do server programming. So languages like Python, Ruby, and frameworks like Ruby on Rails, PHP, Zen framework. We will build equivalent applications with JavaScript in the backend. And some people criticize me when I say this in the open, but I guess I can say this here because this is a course designed for JavaScript, that I think it will be the language of the future. It already is the language of the world, much like English, because even your TV or some of your fridges, if they are smart fridges, they are running JavaScript. Your televisions, they run JavaScript. Your PlayStation, your Xbox, your phone, every little device around you is almost running JavaScript. So that means if you learn the language, if you learn the way of doing stuff in JavaScript, then you'll be able to program everything. Up until this point, maybe I can talk a little bit about myself. I originally come from Turkey. I moved to Berlin 2 years ago for a company called UNU. I don't know if you heard UNU before. We're doing electric scooters. Who heard UNU before? Yay, perfect. Who likes scooters, like Vespa kind of scooters? Come on, what is the problem with you guys? Motorbikes, yeah. Yeah. So basically, we're doing electric scooters. That's our first product, but we're building urban mobility solutions. So I'm the head of software engineering there, which means I'm kind of running the software teams and software efforts of UNU. In the past, I had a startup incubator in Turkey, and basically Mert was there with me as my partner, and we did something different. The year was 2011, and there were no boot camps. There were no startup boot camps where people could go and learn coding. And what we did was we created an army of developers by teaching them over the summer just for free, and by signing them afterwards, the best performers, and then they were the first startup developers of our own startups in our incubator. So this was a model that we employed for 3 years until we kind of bankrupted ourselves, because apparently it didn't work in Turkey. But then you all saw the rise of coding boot camps, right? Like, especially in the US, in every state there is several coding boot camps, and actually they charge you money. I don't believe in that model. That's probably why we got bankrupted anyway. But I like to do stuff for free. And then I took on this to found a software craftsmanship school for women. It's called Lonja Works, and you can find it online actually. But since this is kind of my course, I will just open the homepage. It's basically based on something called software craftsmanship. Did you hear about it before? Software craftsmanship? Perfect. Yeah, maybe one. It's basically an educational model where you can apply anywhere, especially in companies, where a junior developer and a senior developer comes together and there's a mentorship involved. So the junior developer is the apprentice, the senior developer is the master, and then they teach each other. And basically we have this kind of online school for women for free again. And yeah, we have a couple of masters there, senior developers, and a lot of students, mostly from Turkey, but also from abroad as well. And all we do is we teach them how to be great software engineers, because we believe it doesn't happen in schools. A diploma doesn't really make you a software engineer. It's more than that, and it's actually a craft. It's like carpentry, woodworking, or pottery. They're all crafts. Or like even hair designing is a craft. And software is also a craft rather than engineering. In engineering, you have definitive equations of everything that explain everything. You apply them to the problems and you solve the problems. There's actually no unknowns and no uncertainties in real engineering. But software is not like that. There are no silver bullets. There are no golden rules. There are no equations that you can apply that will give you 100% success. Otherwise, everybody would be billionaires, right? Everybody would have their own startup. It doesn't work. So software engineering is something else. It is a craft. It's a unique output. It's a value-added output. And basically, this is what we do. And that's also why I wanted to do this course, because I wanted to share my experiences in programming, and especially in JavaScript. And I think together we will really make an impact. Our first students from 2011 are actually holding similar boot camps right now back in Turkey, and I'm really proud to see that the tradition is going on. And I hope it will be replicated here, this success, and some of you will be mentors for the next JavaScript class, or lead JavaScript classes or programming classes around the world, basically, wherever you go. And that is the goal. So I kind of start this and give you as much as I can, and then you take this on and bring light to more people, to the people that we couldn't reach today. So I hope whatever I'm saying is making some sense. Do I bore you? Is it good? Okay. Sorry if I just took too long. But I wanted to make this introduction as a background setting for why we're doing this and for why you're actually here. You're not here to just learn a programming language. This is maybe the start of a new career, maybe the advancement of your career, but all we're gonna do is to create experiences, knowledge, create value, and in the end, we hope to give you some real experiences with a real app that you develop as part of this course. And actually, we didn't mention, but we have some prizes, I guess, for top performers at the end of the class, because you will have kind of graduation projects. The apps that you will develop will be your kind of graduation projects. We have some some conference tickets for .js, right? Do we have 2 of them? Yeah, so we have 2 conference tickets that we're going to give out. And then I will kind of initiate my network for some internship opportunities, starting obviously from my company, which will be a little bit easier because I get to make the decisions there. But yeah, I want to offer internship at UNU to 1 or maybe 2 people, depending on your progress here. So it's not like, you know, we just learn stuff and then go home, but I really want this to be a game changer for you. So this is how I see it. This is the effort that I'm putting and I will put behind it, which means I kind of expect a similar effort from you. Obviously, this is not the first time I'm teaching classes. Just this February and March, I was again going back and forth to Turkey to teach a master's class on front-end engineering in my previous university. Students sometimes hate me because I expect a lot. I try to give a lot. I'm always available. I will do screen recordings of every session. I actually just started with today's session. So basically, you will have the opportunity to go back to the class and whatever we did to recap, to do it again and again until you perfect it. And yeah, basically, I expect you to go all in on this. So it's not like, oh, we have a meetup for 3 hours every Thursday and that's it. No, I will expect you to work on your own as well. Obviously, you don't have to do it. You can still come here and enjoy the talks, but you will really benefit from it if you go all in and spare a couple of hours a week extra and to do homeworks and to do projects. And in the end, I believe you will heavily benefit from it because I saw this happen a lot of times before. And I said, I want to replicate the same thing here with you. So how does it sound? Good? Great. Really, this is not a kind of event where it's really, just regular stuff that a person teaches you from 10 years ago. No, actually, we are defining technology at UNU. We are defining how backend engineering should be done in the software industry. That's why I wanted this to be a backend course and not a front-end course, because we are following technology in front-end, but we're creating technology for the backend. So you will also get a glimpse of that. So whatever we will teach you is actually real stuff that the companies are using. And you will see that it's not that extremely hard. The fundamentals, the basics are actually pretty easy. All you have to do is just practice. Practice day in and out, over and over again with different projects, with different collaborators, working on open source projects. And then you will basically be a great JavaScript backend developer, which is in my interest. As I said, I am very opinionated about this topic. I think it's an amazing language that lets you do everything. Up until this point, I did mobile applications in JavaScript that feels completely native. So jank-free, smooth animations, great user experience. A lot of them actually, starting from 2012. I did desktop applications. I did an MP3 player that is like broadcasting, somewhat like Spotify with broadcast. Backend applications and obviously web pages and front-end applications. So whatever you want to do, you can do. with JavaScript, and you're all covered, and basically we're here to help. So if you say, no, I don't want to do backend engineering, yeah, I mean, I attend this course, but I would be more interested in desktop apps, I can help. Maybe not as a part of this course, but again, I'm always available on Slack. And this is community work. I give a lot of input to you, and I expect for you to do the same for others. So throughout this course, you will run into a lot of issues and troubles with your code. It will work, sometimes it will not work because you forget a parentheses, or you put a square brackets instead of a parentheses. These things will happen. That's why we have a lot of instructors here who will help you out. But I know we will not be enough, because like we are maybe 40, 60 people. You have to help each other. We will not succeed unless we share every bit of information and experience that we gain, even during the class. So I expect every one of you to, after you're done with your work within the class, just go out and help others, help people. That way we'll be really, really successful. So, okay. Is everybody on Slack right now? There were 2 people who were not on Slack before. 1 more. Please, 2 more. Oh, a lot more. Yeah, actually really a lot more. Please. Sign up to Slack. I sent an email for the introduction over Meetup, but in the coming weeks I will not send an email over Meetup. I will just use Slack and our channel on Slack for communication. So if you're not there, you'll miss out a lot of the stuff. So some people are or were on Slack, right? Last week we had to cancel our meetup, and right after that some of you complained like, hey, I was really prepared to learn. What am I gonna do now? And I sent out a link for you to study. Who knows that link? Okay, what was it? What was the link?
It's a cheat sheet.
Yeah, it's a cheat sheet. Yes, it's a cheat sheet for JavaScript. Who studied that cheat sheet? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah, a little bit. So since this is a very, very diverse course, I will go over the details of JavaScript, the programming language, at a very, very basic level. I will start with the definitions of variables, functions, arrays, for loops, while loops, okay? Classes, objects, and the goal at the end of today, and I guess that will be 10, but actually you will have to stop me talking because I can, go on for hours. The goal is to create a few objects in JavaScript that are instantiated from some classes and that have certain relationships with other objects. So does this definition make any sense? Please let me see your hands. Because I will obviously tailor the course according to this. So 5 or 6 people raised their hands saying that this definition makes sense, that we will create some objects that are instantiated from some classes that will have some relationship to other classes and objects. So 5 or 6 people raised their hands, yeah. Which means the rest don't know what these mean, right? Is it correct? Raise your hands if this doesn't make any sense to you. It doesn't have to. I will explain them everything and all. Okay, please raise your hands. There is a group in the middle that don't raise their hands for any question. So in total, I got 12 hands, and let's say we're 40 people. So what about the rest? Please speak up. I'm just the instructor.
If people are confused and not understand, but they don't understand, you want us to raise our hand because we know it or because we don't know it. So I think it would help if you could just repeat the question.
All right, yes, thank you. That's a very, very good input. So the question is, the definition that I did, raise your hand if you don't know what it means. Creating objects from classes that have relationships to other classes. Raise your hands if you don't know what it means. All right, okay. Now, raise your hands if you know what it means. All right, good, 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 good. This is better. This is a lot better. Thank you. Yeah, see, it's continuous improvement. Also for me, please direct me to the exact answer or the right question if something is unclear. Feel free to stop me all the time. I will tell you kindly if you're just bothering the progress of the class. So just don't worry about it. Feel free to speak up whenever you want. So I wanted you to set up some software. The first one was an IDE, Integrated Development Environment, which was called Visual Studio Code. Who installed Visual Studio Code? Okay, several people. All right. And who installed Node.js? Good. So the goal is to get these installed also today, because from this week on, we will actually go deep into Node.js and we'll write code for Node.js. Today, I will mostly use Google Chrome as a development environment. So you won't have to, if you didn't set up Visual Studio Code or if you didn't set up Node.js, it's okay, it's fine. We will help you with that. But please raise your hands. The instructors are there. They will try to help you. Hello. They will try to help you install Visual Studio Code or Node.js, whether you're running. Yeah, there is our first candidate there. The goal is, again, to get these installed and working correctly. So if you don't have them, don't panic. We'll help you install all the tools. Just raise your hand, ask help, ask for help. We have two great guys standing over there to help. So who wants help? Yeah, there. Please. All right. I have a couple of more people. So again, please feel free to pull us in so that we get this right. And if you can't get this right by the end of today, it's not. Yeah. Sorry? Internet problems? Yeah, actually, the Wi-Fi doesn't work for me as well. That's why I switched to my phone. But do we have a solution for that, Vlad?
There's usually sometimes hiccups.
Yeah.
It's usually solved in a minute.
Yeah. It's also maybe that we are really crowded here, which is amazing, but Wi-Fi's are sometimes, routers are not prepared for that. The best thing is, you don't actually need internet connection to do or follow whatever I'm going to do today. So don't worry about it. Just open Chrome and the blank page. Actually, I can demonstrate that. I will just turn off my Wi-Fi.
It should be working now for me.
Okay, great. Can you confirm? Is it working for you guys?
What is working?
The internet, Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay, there is no internet connection. So, has anybody been to Turkey here before? Raise your hands. Very few people. Yeah, but maybe you heard some stories about the situation in Turkey. The best thing, I guess, Turkey gave us is the idea to survive. So whatever happens, we had to find a way to survive. This is kind of tragic, and it's kind of the reason for why I also ended up here. But this is a manifestation of that thing. Like, if there's no internet connection, it doesn't matter. We don't need it. We'll survive. We'll find another way, and we'll make this thing work. And so just don't worry about it, and just follow what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna talk about the browser and something called the developer tools. Anybody who doesn't know what the developer tool is, please raise your hands. The question is, raise your hands if you don't know what the developer tools are in Chrome. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Please don't be shy. 5. Good. It's basically something we use to debug our web pages, our web applications. When there's a problem in a page, when it breaks, the developer is alerted by, hopefully by a nice person, usually by machines that call you like 4 a.m. in the morning and say, hey, the website is broken, just go fix it. And it's a tool that we use to fix our websites. There is a shortcut to open it. The best way is to just right-click in anywhere on any page. This could be any page. Currently for me, there's no internet connection. This is the blank page. For you, it could be anything. But you just right-click and click Inspect. And that will give you the developer tools. Now, there are some shortcuts for it. For Windows, I guess it's Control-Shift-I. For Mac, it's Command-Alt-I guess. That will give you the developer tools. Either as a standalone window, as in your case, or as an embedded window, as in my case. So the first step is to get this window open. Please raise your hands if you did it, if you have this open. All right, good. Now, maybe 80% of the people raised their hands, which means we have some people who don't have this open. What do we do? What do we do? We help them, right? Please. So just look around and help people to get the developer tools, the console open.
Can they raise their hands? Can you ask them to raise their hands?
Yeah, please raise your hands if you didn't get this open, and some people will help you. Nobody? Hello. So does everybody get it? Do you have it on? Again, raise your hands if you have it on. All right. You guys over there, do you have the developer tools open? Why don't you raise your hands? Please. So let's make sure that we have our attention kind of here to the questions, because I'm not asking you questions just for sake of asking, but to customize the course and the steps. So like, it's really important for me to understand if you follow the steps that I'm doing, because like the basics are really, really important. So for me, it starts with a console, and I can write some stuff. I will make it a little bit bigger for you, like this. I guess it's big enough. And just confirm that you can write some stuff here. And when you press enter, you'll get an error, something like this. Please follow along. This is an error. It is actually a nightmare, mostly for front-end developers, when you see these kind of stuff, because, I mean, just look at it. Uncode reference error, blah, blah, is not defined at anonymous 11. It's a little bit tricky to understand what it says, right? Anybody who understands what this thing is saying? Yeah, please. Can you tell us?
Probably anonymous means it's not coming from the file, it's probably in the browser, and 11 is like on line 1
Yeah.
of the console. And reference error, so it's trying to reference something,
Yeah.
but it's not defined.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. The explanation is I just typed random stuff and pressed enter. What do I really expect? Normally you reference some variables or some commands in the console window, in the command window, and I just referenced a random thing. So it says, this is an error. This is a reference error. There's no reference like this anywhere. And again, the anonymous is basically, it says this is not running in a file, but it's running in the console. This is not very important. What is important is I can type anything here, and I can make stuff, make weird stuff actually here. For example, I can write window, which references the browser window. And that's a variable that is already available, so that you see it auto-completes already. When I type window, it says, you mean window. And when I press enter, I get something printed here, which is very nice, because you can click around. And you can see, you can click more and see a lot more properties, names, something in quotes, mouse up, mouse down, resize, touch end, touch start. Does any of these make sense, the names? Can you tell me what they are? Mouse up, mouse down, resize, touch end, touch start, key up. Yes, they are events. They are kind of the actions that you can do on a browser, on a web page. But anyway, so window is something that I can reference. Okay, it's a notion. It's pointing to something that exists. It's the browser window. We call these references variables. So raise your hand if you don't know the definition of a variable until now. Is it a little bit clear? It's something, it's an entity out there, which is like the browser window, and actually you can talk to that. And for example, the window is a variable, and I can type its name, which means I have its reference now, and I can do interesting stuff with it. Let's see what we can do with that variable. Window is actually an object. It's not only a simple variable, but it's actually an object, which is a collection of variables. All right. So the event names that we saw earlier, they were also variables. Everything is actually kind of a variable in programming languages, and we do all that kind of magic by juggling around all those variables. So I click on this arrow and I can see a lot of names here. They are all kind of variables in somewhere. Okay, I want to do something with this. So I say window, and I press dot. Okay, which gives me a new list that I can scroll. Did you get that? Raise your hands if you didn't get it. Tricky question. Okay. So window dot gives me all the sub-properties or the variables that are inside the window thing. And the first one is actually and you can see, this list goes on and on. Like there are hundreds of stuff here. Some front-end developers know a lot of these variables. They do really cool stuff. And if this were a front-end course, we would go through some of them and learn some of them. But this is not a front-end course. I'm just trying to teach JavaScript. But the first one, the one that it suggests me, actually is very important, alert. So window.alert is what I'm going to type, okay? And I press enter again, and I get something like an F alert and native code. And when I hover over it, it says function alert and some native code. So who knows functions either in programming or from maths, from mathematics? Raise your hands if you know functions from programming or math. Okay. Now raise your hand if you don't know what a function is. Perfect. So, cool. I want someone to explain me what a function is from a mathematician's perspective, or like from a math perspective. What was function that you learned in school? Some rules for transformation. That's perfect. Any other explanation? It could be anything, and don't ever think or worry about making a mistake. It's okay. We're all here to make mistakes. Especially, I want that privilege from you. I will do some mistakes from time to time. Please feel free to correct me, because like it's obvious, right? Nobody is perfect. So, and you're learning, so it's okay to say seemingly silly things. They will sound silly to you. They may sound silly to you, but they are perfectly valid for me, because I can use them as a material for teaching. So please tell me give me another explanation of a function. Please.
Could be an action, or could be something where you need an input.
Yeah. Yeah. It could do some action. When given an input, it gives you an output. That's a very good definition as well. Any other idea? Give me one more, please.
Given the same argument, should return the same value.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a very advanced definition, but it's a very good one. Given the same arguments, yeah. The definition is given the same arguments, it should always return the same output, the exact output. So if you let's say add is a function, adding something is a function, you want to add 2 and 4 together, the result is always 6, right? There's no way that you'll get something else. That's a function. Okay, one more definition before I go on. Please raise your hand. And I can wait until morning. I don't mind. Please.
Like a procedure, routine, like it's executed?
Like a procedure, like a routine, it's executed, exactly. Actually, routine is just another name for a function. So, in older languages, there was a person that dealt with Pascal? Or something like a Pascal, right? Yeah. Probably you had procedures there. They are basically functions. A group of some lines of code that do something. Okay, so alert, what do you think it does? Please? Yes, creates a pop-up and bugs you. Usually this happens when you want to leave a website. You click X and then they say, wait, I give you 5% discount, just please stay. All right, let's use that function, okay? Let's do something useful. And by useful, we almost always mean that we display this famous message. Hello world. So the syntax is, oh, no, these are not syntax. The syntax is you do window.alert to access that function. That's a reference, and then you put some parentheses to call that function, to execute that function. And whatever goes between the parentheses will stay in the parentheses. It's called the argument. It's called the parameter. And in this case, it's something called hello world with quotes. This is our way in programming of showing strings. Something called a string, which is a piece of text, basically. And okay, window.alert, hello world, I press enter, and I get a message that bugs me. An embedded page on this web page says, hello world, what do you want to do? And I don't have any option other than to click OK. But yeah, this is the first element of interactivity with my code. I just write window.alert, hello world, I type in, press enter, and I get a pop-up that says something, hello world. And you can say yes, because that's the only option. So did anybody not get this pop-up? All right. Am I going too slow? What? That's perfect, but we survived that. You don't need internet for this. All right, thank you. But could you get this done?
Yeah, I did get it.
All right, perfect. Did anybody not get it right? Just don't be shy. Raise your hand. These people are obviously here to help you, the other instructors. So let's give them some work, okay? Let's break something. Let's speed up and hopefully they will have something to do. But okay, so I passed in a string and it gave me a message. By the way, I'm cleaning my screen by pressing Command and K on a Mac laptop. On a Windows, I have no idea what the shortcut is. So if anybody finds out, please tell me how you can clear the console in Windows. But if you right-click, there's actually clear console, so it works for you. So you can clean that, or you can click the console at the top, so that you get a whole page where you can write a lot of stuff. All right, so we know references, we know variables, we know strings, we know functions, right? Let's create some variables that are names. I want to create 3 different names, my name and some of my friends' names, and we'll try to do some interesting stuff with them. So how do you create a variable? You get a reference that was or was not there, like person 1. If you press enter, you'll obviously get this uncode reference error thing because it's not being created yet. So I do person 1 equals Arman. Actually, we don't pronounce the G. It's a special G with a hat. So person 1 equals Arman assigns the value of string Arman to that person variable. And now if you write person 1, it will give you the exact answer. So it's not an error anymore because that exists. I created that, okay? I want to add my surname to this. I want to append my surname to this so that it reads Arman Amcalar. How do I do that? Any ideas? Feel free to raise your hand and speak. Please. Yeah?
It's the same, like equals person 1 plus, and then your surname.
Yeah. So it's like this. You can do this with your own names. Person 1 equals person 1 plus something in string again, which starts with space, obviously, and then my surname. This is called addition, right? Or a concatenation. We just concatenated 2 strings. I had my name first, and now I have my surname. If I write person 1, I get my full name. There's no way to get Arman only again, because I changed it, I modified it, because this is a variable. This can change, okay? Now, the way to define a variable is actually different. It actually starts with the keyword var, which stands for variable, okay? Var person 2 equals Mert, and when I press enter, I get undefined. But if I type person 2, I'll get his name. And Mert is our co-instructor here. So I created another variable. There is a certain difference between these, but just for the sake of brevity, I will go on and say that we actually don't use the first one ever, like without the var keyword. We were using this for 20 years until last year, but then they changed the language. So while this is still valid, most hipster developers will say this is bad, and therefore we don't use it again. But what do we use to create variables? Now, there is a dilemma, a very contradictory thing in JavaScript or in programming. This is called a variable, right? There is something called a constant variable. So it's variable because it changes, it varies. You can assign multiple values to it. You can, I don't know, like person 1 was me, but I can reassign it. Person 1 equals 3, I can make, and then person 1 will be 3 from now on. I can change it because it's a variable. How can a variable be a constant? That is really weird. Yeah. Well, actually, yes. There's a keyword for that, const. So person 3 equals David, for example, the guy over there. So I made a constant variable. Oh, are you all right?
Yes.
The question is, what do we expect this to do? For me, it's a contradiction. A constant is either a constant or a variable. It either varies or it's constant. What do you expect it to do when I do person 3 equals Anna? Yeah, it will give me an error. And this time it's more understandable, legible. It will say assignment to... Ooh, good. Thank you. Oh, okay. This time it will give assignment to constant variable type error, which is something at least we can understand. You know, like we try to assign something, a new value to a constant thing. Why do they call it variable? Because there are two hard things in computer science. Does anybody know those? No, you don't count. There are two hard things in computer science.
Don't be like those girls.
No, the first thing is naming. Naming is really hard. Like, it's something we cannot get. We've been doing literature for thousands of years, but we still can't find a good name for this thing. This is contradictory. There is no explanation why there's something called a constant variable. The only explanation is we're bad at naming. You will see throughout the course, we will have a lot of trouble coming up with names for our variables, for our functions, for our classes. It's really hard to get right. And it's the first rule of software architecture. The second thing is something called cache invalidation, but I will not go into detail about what cache invalidation is. Maybe in 7th or 8th week we can talk about that. It's a really bad thing. You're better off if you don't know what it is.
The third thing is off by 1
Yeah, and the third thing is off by 1 errors. You get it? Because there were two things, and then... Anyway, so const person 3 is one way of doing it, but I kind of forbid the previous two. So how do you think we create real variables that can change over time? Yeah, we're using let. Another keyword, let person 4 equals John. This is pronounced as John. He's another friend that will be here. Maybe he'll be here next week as a co-instructor. But actually, you can reassign him. Since he's not here, we can reassign him to, I don't know, Michael. And person 4 is now Michael. So these are the basics. Again, evaluate if it's slow or fast. Raise your hand if you think it's slow. Good. Raise your hand if you think this is fast or this is the correct speed. Raise your hand if you think this is the correct speed. Okay, perfect. So these are the basics of programming. Please.
The difference between that and I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
It means the same.
Yes. Practically they are the same. In a couple of minutes I'll show some advanced constructs like if and for loops, and then I will talk a little bit more about this, but for now practically they're the same.
So what are you using for defining variables?
Let. We're not using var because it's kind of deprecated and people think it's evil, and I will come back to that in a second with the second part.
But it still works.
Yes, it still works. And actually, I'm a big fan of using var instead of const and let, personally, because it's simpler, right? It's one keyword, it's 3 letters, it's shorter. But unfortunately, the industry decided otherwise, so it's kind of a standard now to use const and let. I don't know, Iker, do you want to say a couple of words about it? Okay. All right, thank you. By the way, as I said, I can keep talking forever. Actually, I was yesterday in London for a conference talk. Just flew back to Berlin this morning. So like talking is my job. So please stop me if you need a break, you know, just to get some fresh air, to drink something, or. Okay. Yeah. Because if you won't stop me, I'll go on. And I'm really serious about this. People take this lightly. So we have variables, person 1, 2, 3, 4, and we kind of agreed, we will close that topic about var and let, but we kind of agreed that we use const and let from now on for defining variables. If something is not going to change, if you know that the value will not change, you use const. If you know that it will change in the future, you use let. So the idea is, until you need to change something, use const. Always use const, which is 5 letters, looks terrible, doesn't work with indentation, but people like it. So use const all the time until you have to change the value of the variable. Then you can use let. And this is kind of a, a rule of thumb. All right, so I kind of showed you numbers, right? So you can actually do addition here or multiplication or division. Oh, this is a nice pattern. Or some very advanced bitwise operators are also supported. Does anybody know what bitwise operators are? Raise your hands if you know what a bitwise operator is. Bitwise operator. Bitwise. Good. Very good. We will not look into those. They are, you know, from a dinosaur era. Like 60 million years ago, people used to program with bitwise operators and actual bits, but currently we don't use them. But anyway, they're all supported. So you can do any kind of calculation here. In fact, let's add a function. Let's create a function. We saw one function, right? The alert function. Let's create a function that will add 2 numbers. I can do addition when I type 3, 4 plus something. This is a literal representation, and it gives me the result. Or, you know, I can say const result equals 34 plus 11, whatever. And you have to type the name to get the value. It says, for example, 45. It does it. And now you can refer to result, or you can do alert result, and it will, you know, give you a pop-up with that result. So it works. But let's create a function for the sake of creating a function to add 2 numbers or add 2 variables. That's even interesting. So I create a function by typing the function keyword, okay? And I do give it a name, which is kind of add. And I need 2 things to add, right? I cannot add only one thing. I need a second thing to add the first thing. What do you call them? So this is the naming, our hard stuff. You need to name 2 variables that will be added together. In math, there is a name for this, which is a very weird name called operand 1 and operand 2. Fortunately, they solved this problem for us. Mathematics has our back, but in real life, we will have to come up with these names, and I would never create a name like an operand. But this is the syntax. I write the function keyword, I write the name of the function that I want to use later. Beforehand it was alert, and I wanted this to be add right now. I open some parentheses, I write in the parameters that I will operate on. So I have 2 operands because I want to add 2 numbers, so I have 2 parameters there. two arguments, operand 1 and operand 2, and I close the parentheses because like I'm done, I don't want to add more numbers, and then I open a curly bracket. Obviously, if you press enter for a new line, it doesn't work here, but what we can do is we can press shift enter to get to a new line and give 4 spaces. Does anybody not know what indentation is? Raise your hands if you don't know what indentation is. Don't be shy. All right, good. Indentation is something you do in writing. In new paragraphs, you sometimes want them to start from, I don't know, like 1 finger inside, 1 inch inside, to signify that it's a new paragraph. We use the same thing in programming all the time, and we use it to denote that. For example, I will just say, let me write this, return operand 1 plus operand 2. We use it to say that this line, this next line, actually belongs to the line above. So it's like a sub-line of this. Oh shit. Return operand 1 plus operand 2. Because that was the operation, right? I want to do addition. So I add the first thing and the second thing, and I return the value. If you remember our definitions of a function that came from back of the class, that function is something that takes some arguments and gives an output. So how do you give that output? You return it, basically. Return operand 1 and 2, and then you have to close the curly brackets. So this is the final syntax. And you press enter. It says undefined, because like you just gave it a command, but you didn't tell it what to do with it. You just created a function, so like there's no result. And when there's no result, instead of saying there's no result, it says undefined, so it's okay. But I can actually now reference this. If you type add, you get the function. You get what you defined. Okay? You type add and press enter, and you get the result. You can call it. You can type add 3, 4, and press enter, and you'll get the result. It'll be 7. Now, what is interesting is, do you remember how I added my surname to my name? How did I do that? Raise your hand and speak. Yeah, please. Yeah. I had a string and I added another string to it, right? I had a variable and I added another string to it. So I can actually do a similar thing here by giving it 2 new strings. So Armand is the first string, Amjad is the second string, and I'm calling the function just as I did with numbers, and I get a result back. It's not the best thing because there is no space in between my name and my surname. This looks like a nickname for, I don't know, for somebody. And to change that, I can basically add another space here. So basically, it works. Okay, so did you follow me so far? Did you not follow me so far? You did. Okay. So raise your hands if you couldn't get this right. You there? Are you okay? Let's work. All right. Perfect. This is the definition of a function. Now there's another new syntax for defining a function. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that. Again, this is kind of like the new way of doing stuff that was introduced a couple of years ago. It's kind of, again, what cool hipster developers do. So it's good to learn it and follow the hype, right? It's what JavaScript is about. It's about hypes and following it. So the second way is actually starts by creating a variable. I say const because why? Why do I start with const? if I do want to do a variable.
I don't want it to be able to change.
Yeah. Even if maybe in the future it will change, for now it will be the same. So I always start with const. Const subtract equals. I start as if I'm defining a variable, because in the end a function is also a variable. And then instead of writing function keyword, I omit that because it's not cool anymore. It's like what our grandfathers used to write when they wanted programming. I just open a parentheses and say operand 1, operand 2, close the parentheses, okay? Because like these are my arguments and I define my arguments. Do a fat arrow, and this is not politically correct, I hate the name. Why do you call it a fat arrow? It has feelings, but it's called a fat arrow. As if there's something called a normal arrow in JavaScript. There's no arrows in JavaScript. So they could just call it arrow, but they just decided to call it a fat arrow. But you do an equals sign and a greater than sign, and yeah, maybe that's the command. And then you basically define the function. What you do is you omit the curly brackets because they're not cool. You omit the return keyword because that's not cool. And just write operand 1 minus operand 2. Okay? And press enter. Now if you go and do subtract, you kind of get the same thing again as a definition of a function. Now let's call this subtract 5 and 2. It will give me the correct result. 5 and 3 actually. And the result is 2. So it works. This is the second way of defining functions in JavaScript. And again, usually we use this. Please.
So what happens if you have a function in this new syntax where it might be spam whether one line? Would you be break braces in that case?
Yes. In that case, you do curly braces after the fat arrow, and then you have to use the return keyword. That's not cool anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Because like one-liner functions, it's a thing. There's a thing called one-liner functions, and that's the coolest thing apparently. That's why we have this syntax. If you don't have one-liner functions, you have to, think about your life, take a deep breath, and know that you're not cool. Obviously, I hate all of this stuff, but again, this is the industry. This is where the industry is headed. So it's my job and my place to show you where the industry is doing what they're doing. But yeah, I agree it looks shorter. And sometimes it's good to have one-liners, sometimes. By the way, I also think about sharing a lot of articles in Slack. So if you register and keep an eye on our channel, you'll get a lot of articles about software, not only for beginners, but also for sometimes advanced stuff as well. Hopefully they will, give you some more context and insight about what we're doing. All right, what happens if we try to subtract strings? Did anyone try this already? Raise your hands if you tried it already. All right, 1. You should, because I expect this kind of energy from you. Try to break stuff, all right? This course is about learning something, but the best way to learn something is to break it.
Not a number.
Yeah, you get something called a not a number. Now this is another inconsistency, okay? It was fine when we used addition. What is wrong when we want to use subtraction? Like, why didn't you complain? If this is not a number, it wasn't a number when I tried to add you, right? Definitely it wasn't a number. But this is another advanced topic called operator overloading in programming. Please.
So, I forget to install Chrome, but is it different in Safari?
No, it's the same. and it should. The version of Safari is important. It should be 10 or 11. So if you're using 9, it will not support this new syntax. Because, you know, this is for the cool kids and Safari was not cool 2 years ago.
It's same in Safari 11,
yeah? Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah, please.
I thought you were also with the let add equals.
Yeah. You can do that. Let add equals stuff. But like, did I get the question correct? Like, or
Const add.
Sorry?
Would it be const add or let add?
It's both the same. But some people will really hate you if you use let, because the value of the function add will not change because you define it once and then you use it. So just to be safe, if you love your life, just use const, okay? Nobody will come after you if you use const. Yeah, it's really weird. But I was talking about the advanced stuff. It's called operator overloading. It's an advanced technique where you can change the meaning of operators, like the plus sign, which is supposed to add 2 numbers. You can change the meaning of it in certain languages, not in JavaScript, but you can reprogram it kind of to do other stuff, to do anything you like. And for strings, it has a meaning. You know, how would you otherwise add 2 strings or concatenate 2 strings? This would be kind of hard. You have to use a function or something. But they overloaded the plus sign to actually mean bring those strings together. So that's why the plus sign actually works for strings, because it makes sense. You just put those strings together. But the minus sign doesn't give you anything. It gives you an error, not a number error, because it's not meaningful. It just doesn't mean anything. You cannot subtract 2 strings from each other. And we have the break now, right? Yes, we have the break, and we can talk about your question in the break. So you're free. You can, you know, stand up, do other stuff, get some air, yeah, do some exercises.
So drinks here, food and toilet there. Please remember to clean all your bottles and all your trash. There's crates and trash separation.
So drinks are here on the back. The food is here on the left. And please clean up after yourself.
Can I get your chair? There's one here, but we just didn't build it all the way.
Okay, I can run. Yeah. I'm actually fine
I'll
while talking.
Here and don't
Yeah.
use it if you don't.
Yeah. Thank you.
We have to go to the code motion thing.
Okay. It's alright.
There's something I wanted to show you. So I'll show you.
Alright, please.
Did you ever write Ruby code?
Yeah.
So when you specify dependencies for a gem file, there is this operator that means version compatibility, which is like tilde.
Tilde, yeah.
So it's called Twiddlewhacker.
What?
It's called Twiddlewhacker.
Okay. What does it mean?
Nothing. People are just bad naming. You can Google it. It is seriously called like this.
Okay.
Twiddlewhacker.
Like this?
Double K. Whacker.
Like this?
Yeah, except it's A at the end. Not ER. Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
This is how it's called.
Do you think like if we have Safari 11, we don't need to install Chrome? Or
Yes.
Like, yeah?
Yeah.
That would be okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
How are you enjoying yourself, mister?
It's pretty good.
Yeah?
How about you?
Yes.
Did you like it?
I'm full of ideas. I wrote like some stuff already.
Okay. Ooh. Should I read them?
Suggestion for schedule and stuff. Yeah, I mean I'll Slack you later.
No, I mean, should I read them now so that other people see? No, I won't do that.
I don't think. What do you think if we ask that in these for feedback? Should we go for it or not?
For what?
Like for every meetup or just in the end?
Feedbacks?
Yeah.
We should ask for every week. Ask for
Every
every
week, so we can like do like a forum and say it's not mandatory, but if you want to say something, do it.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. I also think to write now on Slack that if you have questions,
Yeah,
it's not stupid questions, ask
Yes.
it, and if you're shy, raise your hand. If you're shy, write in Slack.
Yeah, exactly.
Like push people to ask questions.
Yes.
That's cool. So you're enjoying so far. You're happy.
Yes.
Good.
By the way, some of the people didn't join the Slack channel. So maybe we should say how to join, because most of the people doesn't know how to join the Slack.
All right.
The link is on Meetup.
Yeah.
Just tell them to
I'll show it.
Some of them asked that actually.
Thank you. You need to sign the NDA.
Oh yeah, please.
You
Give me a pen.
criminal, legal, something
So
words.
yeah, I was going to bring Untitled to the Case Communication Congress this year,
Whoa.
and they asked me for a presentation, and I did something that I think I would like.
Whoa.
So that's the proposal for the congress.
How do you come up with these ideas?
I don't know. This was completely random. I was just like lying awake and I don't know, watching a TV show, and then I thought, okay, maybe I should do this. And then it turned into this whole storyline, because people at the Congress are very political and very serious about this kind of stuff, like the document leaks.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, that's
want
right.
to make kind of a sequel based on leaked documents and government programs. Also give people the choice at the end, so they will basically determine the ending for the challenge.
Whoa. So wait, you're doing the challenge in the conference again? Like, you're not just presenting about it,
Yeah.
but you're doing the challenge again.
Yes.
Amazing. Are you looking for
Well,
for
it's-
sponsors?
It's not. Probably not,
Okay.
because the Congress is very passionate about being commercial
Okay. Yeah.
and volunteer-based. And
Because I would definitely do that.
okay, but basically what they are saying is that if I go for sponsors, I have very limited opportunities to promote them. And
Okay.
people will probably not be able to share their personal details or willing to share. So even if I look for sponsors, I just don't have much to offer in return. But instead they said they might be offering to sponsor me if they have the budget and
Okay.
they like the proposal. So
Well, if they like the proposal and they don't have the budget, we can still do something with that limited terms as well. I don't know, as long as we have a logo somewhere,
okay.
and then we can,
it's good to know.
yeah, and then we can use it for our own presentational purposes. Like,
Sure.
hey, we sponsored this thing because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Is in
I
CCC.
don't remember. I sent you pictures, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, did you?
Your phone is ringing.
Okay. If there is no link in my email, please remind me, because we do have a lot of pictures, and you
Okay.
can of course like use it
Yeah.
anywhere you want.
Oh yeah. Oh no. You actually did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's currently a little of a trouble about Twitter accounts.
Alright.
Some trouble about our Twitter account
Oh, right.
and its management.
Okay.
It's a human problem. It's not a software problem.
All right.
But we'll figure that out. And I actually want to do these kind of
But
stuff.
yeah, just
Yes,
ask
I'm
me
just
for
not
any
good
kind
at
of
all.
Yeah, me
help
too.
or
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then we
anything
can
you
try.
need.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
And I'm going to
because
need my proposal
I
back. because
won't
it's
play with
close
Sorry,
Anna
I
because
just-
never in a million years.
but
eyes,
that's
eyes only.
She presents herself like
That's
she
perfect.
knows that stuff,
Um,
but I don't. So I know.
I'm
how to
actually
play
really
that.
proud.
I'm super bad.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
You know how to play
Yeah,
chess?
you're going to the Congress, right?
No, I'm not.
No.
I just
Oh.
know some tricky moves like
Yeah, I
Okay,
think I asked
that's
already.
better than me.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the basics.
I mean,
That's a
I
shame.
don't know. I have some friends who
How are we allowed to go
push me
upstairs?
every year and like make my life hell for that duration, like for why I'm not coming. But
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was a moderator last year.
Yeah, I will
Okay.
go up and
Oh.
slide
So
down.
people kind of already
do
know
that?
me.
Can
so
we
I'm
do that?
hoping I can bring the challenge there as well.
No one says no.
that'll be
Yeah.
amazing.
Do we have to
Yeah,
take our shoes
I
off?
hope
Like,
for it.
we won't slide with the plastic.
Okay, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Next
Thanks.
week, probably.
Yeah, hopefully.
Take
Yeah.
photos.
I'm gonna go
I
and
need
slide.
to run, but
All right.
it's been awesome. I'll come again.
Thank you. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. Very cool. Very nice. But I mean, you planned on using Chrome anyway,
Yeah.
so it worked out well. But I think maybe you need to fix something for the next.
Internet is very bad, and that is a great
Like,
problem. You should
incredibly
give
bad.
homework to everyone.
Yeah, for
Just
npm install, right?
everything.
Like you can't do it like installing stuff.
Okay.
Currently the browser works.
Did you
but
try there?
Yeah.
Installing Node?
I tried to install Groove,
Yeah.
and it
Oh.
tried to install Xcode, etc.
Oh,
and I
but you
cancelled
can't-
them and downloaded Node.js
Okay.
from their own website. It worked,
Okay.
but still it's very,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
nice.
But most things don't. Like I can't even use my phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Sorry I can't stay longer.
I'll tell you.
Gracias.
Is that actually the correct pronunciation of your name?
Natalie? Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't
The
want
last name is a complicated part.
Kisnovich.
Yes. When you do that, then that's all.
Where are you from?
Israel.
Israel. What's your last name? Istunovich. It's like an Eastern European
Yes.
last name.
It's like a very typical Jewish Eastern European.
There was a question over there.
Where are they from? Where are your parents from?
There was also a limit of the amount of people. Yeah. Actually, I'm curious, but it's around Exactly. It's staying behind the work is already paid off. So I'm spending 50 something more time here.
Hello. Can we actually start? A friend of mine just pointed this weird name called Twiddlewaka, and because we were talking about naming things, right? And I said it's the hardest thing in computer science. The number one hardest thing is naming things, and this is an exact example for this. This is an operator in a language called Ruby that does version checks. Like if a version of a library is compatible with another, it's called Twiddlewaka. It's an operator. We tend to name our operators like plus, minus, some Latin word that actually is short and makes some sense. And they had to come up with a name for an operator, but they couldn't because it's hard. How do you create a new name for an operator? And they just went with random stuff. I don't know where it comes from, but I guess you can look it up online to see the history behind it. But it shows you how hard it is to actually name stuff so that people just give up. They don't. They use weird names for these things. But obviously, as good software engineers we will use the proper naming strategies for tools and This is not fun. I guess I don't have a charger. Does anybody have a charger for the new MacBooks? Like the weird USB-C charging? Do you have one also? No? Can I get, if possible? Yeah.
You said you had one.
I thought I had one, but apparently I don't. Sorry for taking your time.
You can use my laptop if you want.
That's okay. I actually have another laptop, just in case. But
you can use mine.
Thank you. because like this stuff is hard to make sure that everything works. Because when you're doing a demo, it doesn't work; it just breaks. So you have to have backups for everything. But apparently, I forgot my charger, or worse yet, I lost my charger. Yeah, thank you. I hope it will be enough. Yay. Okay, this is better. Welcome back. Yeah, it worked. My screen is brighter. All right, so the last thing we said was, subtraction doesn't really work for strings. Let's now move on to something called objects. That was our goal for tonight, right? To create some objects and some relations. And do you remember the definition that I gave for objects? Please raise your hand and tell me, please. Yeah.
It's a collection of variables.
Yeah, an object is a collection of variables. So what types of variables do we have? We had numbers, right? We had strings. We actually have a couple of more. But functions are also variables, right? And if you extrapolate that, you'll see that actually objects are also variables. They can be variables. So if an object is a collection of variables, and if an object is also a variable, you could say that there can be objects of objects, right? Because you can actually put everything within one another. And we'll basically look into how we make that happen. So let's create an object that will model a person. And let's start with ourselves. I'm going to create a new variable, const person1 equals, or wait, sorry, before we do this, we should go into some place where we can freely press enter. Weird, it worked, no. I will go to the sources tab, follow me. In the sources tab, there is, on the left, you see some tab here called sources, and if you click the arrow, then you will get some snippets, something called snippets. It's basically, oh, I had a cheat sheet here. Cool. This is what we will do in a couple of minutes. But you can create a new snippet and give it a name or whatever, and basically you can start writing code freely there. You can press enter and it has line numbers and stuff, so it's more easier. And you can actually run it by pressing command enter or control enter, I don't know, on Windows computers, and you can see the output. So let's start with this one. I click enter, and I get the result there. All right, this is a little bit better. So I was creating a new variable, const person1 equals. Now this is interesting. How do I create an object? It has its own syntax. I put curly brackets, curly braces, and that means it's an object. Let's first define an empty object. This is an empty object. Const person1, and I press command enter, and it evaluates that. And person1 is an empty object, you'll see. It has some weird names called underscore underscore proto underscore underscore, which is another object. It doesn't matter. It's an empty object. So how do I add properties to this object? Let's say I want to give it a name, and I'll write my name on it. I just create a new line, and what I do is I write the name of the variable. It will be name because the person has a name, right? Put a colon, and then give the value of the variable, which is my name. And I press Command Enter again, and it says identifier person 1 has already been declared, so you cannot do that. Alright, I say, then let me do let person 2. Okay, apparently we created this as a const before. Let's do let person 2000, because why not? Person 2000 is an object with a property name whose value is my name. Alright, so I type person 2000 in the console, I get the value, and that's an object. Do you remember the first example that we did? We said window.alert. Alert was a property on the window object. And we can do the same with a person. So person 2000 dot, and you can see auto completes it with name. You press the right arrow key and you get it back. You get my name, or you get your name back. Basically, we referenced a sub-property of an object. So we had this person 2000 object. I said dot to access the properties, sub-properties, and I wrote the name of the property, which is name. All right, it works. Let's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed this, but why did you change now up on line 1 to let and not to const?
Because it freaked me out by errors. It said you can only declare this variable once.
Okay.
And I had already declared that variable before.
Okay.
I wanted to run it and it said, no, you can't do that. Actually, it does the same thing. That's why I will omit this let completely and say, you know, do my code without it, because I'm actually not running from scratch, but I'm changing the value of the variable. All right, I had a person 2000 variable before. Now I'm changing the value of it when I run the code again. So I can do this, but I cannot do this when I type let there, because it will say, hey, you already created that thing. So you cannot create the same variable twice, but you can change the value of it. So let's say a very basic example, we create let number of rooms equals 3, okay? You're rich if you have 3 rooms in your apartment. But let's say you want to split up a room and you want to create 4 rooms. You can say number of rooms equals 4 and you can get it. But you cannot redefine it. You cannot say let number of rooms equal 5, because it will say you created it before, you cannot do it again. But you can change the value of it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to the object. So I had person 2000 and I have a name. Let's add another property. I add a comma at the end of the line and get a new line and say, I don't know, age 33. And then run it. Obviously, if I run it, I will get the error, so I'll remove the let there. I run it and I change the value of that object now. I have a new object with 2 properties, and you can inspect it. You can click the arrow and it will expand and show you that, hey, the age is 33 and the name is Armand. And you can type in the console person 2000 again, or person 2000.age this time, and you will get 33. Now I have my add function here, okay, that adds 2 things. I want to add 5 to my age and to see, you know, what the result is. I do add open parentheses, give the object name person 2000 dot age, because this will be the first operand. I want my age to be the first operand, and then I will add 5 to this. So comma 5 will actually give you 33 plus 538, and you'll get the results. So this is how you access properties of objects, and you can use them in functions, in function calls. You can run anything, actually, anything you want with this thing. Does it make sense?
Why are you using the dot comma thing?
This one, like after age?
No, up on the
here.
The last symbol. What is it called?
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Why do you use
semicolon.
But not.
Yeah, actually, you can use it anywhere. You don't have to use it. This would work. But it signifies the statement has reached its end. So it ends the statement. They are optional in JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Your code would work, 99.99% of the time would work without it. But in certain tricky cases, it will break. So it's good practice to keep it on all the time because we're optimizing for 0.01%, right? Definitely. But yeah, it actually saves you a lot of trouble in web pages and calls at night for why you broke the web page. But yeah, you should actually use it everywhere. But I'm lazy and I don't do it in the console. I use it everywhere except the console. All right, so we have a person, we have a name and an age. All right, I create a person object. I can get a reference to it, and I can create a new person object. All right, let's do that. Person 2001 equals a new object with a name and an age. And I can run it again, and it will give me the output of the second or the last comment that I have, which is person 2001. And you can access it here. So what you can do is, let's, for example, add the two ages of these two people. How do we do that? We have the add function. The first operand is person 2000.age, comma. The second operand is person 2001.age. Okay? I want to add the ages of these two people, and I get a response back, 63. So, did you all follow me up until this point? Raise your hands if you followed me. Okay. Kind of followed me, not followed me. Do you have a question?
I'm getting an error when I try to click something that it's already declared.
Yeah, I guess it's because you use let or const still in your code, which makes you, create that variable, but that variable is already there, so you cannot instantiate it more. You can change the value of it if you omit let or const keywords, but if you have them, you won't be able to recreate them. Okay, just don't be shy. Raise your hands. We'll answer your questions, please. Not in the console. Because in the console, well, when I type enter, it doesn't create a new line, but tries to execute what I write. This is more like a source file, let's say. It's a source file that's inside the browser. So it's like a JavaScript file already. And you can put anything here, as much as you want, and it will not go away. And you can save it. You can load it afterwards from the disk system. And I don't know, it's just easier to see them, to be able to scroll through them. Whereas, I clean the console every couple of commands. Please.
I think the previous question, the answer is that she might not have hit command enter, and then it doesn't work on the console if you don't.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you have to press command enter all the time to execute this, basically. This is a script that I wrote that defines two people. And basically I hit anywhere here, Command Enter or Control Enter, and I get the result. Any other questions?
You only need to do that when you make a change, correct?
Yeah, I mean when you want to run it, even if you don't change it, or for example, I can write it here like add person 2000.age person 2001.age. Okay, when I run it, I will get the exact result. So clear the console, run it again, I'll get the number. Run it again, I'll get the number. And yeah, you can basically run it everywhere. Please.
How do you get around the error message that the person has already been defined?
Yes. So let's demo it again. You probably have let or const before the person names here, for example. If you run it, you get the identifier has already been declared. And this, again, happens because this is a redeclaration. Like person 2000 was there before, right? We worked on that. We made operations on that. So you cannot redeclare a variable name. You can delete it and redeclare it, but that's out of our scope right now. So instead of getting this error all the time and trying to clear all those variables, we just omit the keyword, which leads to changing the values of those variables. So now you can run the function, the script, the file here, and it will give you the correct output without an error, because you're not trying to redeclare the variable, but you're just changing the value of it, which is fine because we had used let instead of const. All right? Make sense? Okay. Please.
You can't change the variables because let. I don't understand the difference to const. I think because const and so on is not declarable again.
The difference is this. So person 2000 and 2001, we declared them with let, right? Here's another example here. Let rooms equals 3, rooms equals 4. We can do this. But if you do const rooms 2 equals 5, you cannot do rooms 2 equals 6. You're not allowed to change it. But by running it every time, I'm actually changing the definitions, the values actually. So I run this, person 2000 dot name is Arman. Let's change it here to, let's say Murat. Okay, person 2000 dot name, I changed it. It was Arman before. Now the value is different. When I run this code again by doing Command Enter, and I do person 2000 name, I will get my name back because I changed the value. I ran this code and I overrode. It's called overriding. Overwriting. I overrode the definition of person 2000. I wouldn't be able to do this if it were a const. So that's the difference between a let and a const. A const doesn't allow you to change the value, but a let does. That's why I used let here, because I'm constantly changing the values.
But the first time you need to take the let.
Yeah.
You just write immediately like person 2000.
Yeah, you can do this. It will work. For our practical purposes for this event, it will work. Later on, when we get to a real environment and a real source code, I will actually show you the places where it does work and doesn't work. But okay, I can add the names of these two people, right? So, do you see kind of a pattern here about the properties of a person? Like a template. If I asked you the question, I want to design a template for a person, a template that I can reuse later on, all right? What properties does it have? Like name and age. So it looks like every person that I want to create from now on will have a name and an age, right? It's kind of a structure, the template that I have. So what happens if there is a new developer in my team and I ask them to create a new object and they forget name, or let's say they forget age, all right? They create another person, 2002 equals a new object, and they say the name is this, you cache that guy over there. Did I get the surname correct? Did I get the surname correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say I want to add the age of the new person, right? The first person was 33 years old, and the last person, person 2002, doesn't have an age because the developer just forgot it, right? Because there's no structure. Unless they copy and paste or know what other people wrote before, there's nothing that tells them a person should have a name and an age. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Kind of. Basically, software is about structures and about consistency. Okay? Sometimes you'll have some objects that have extraordinary properties that are unique to them, but most of the time you have a type of an object, a kind of an object, and they have similar properties, like a person. A person is a person, and in my program they have a name and an age. They don't have a height, for example, or they don't have a weight, but they have an age and a name, and that's what I value. That means in my programs I expect every person to have an age and a name, and I kind of want to give the structure to other developers so that they can use without having to type this name and age themselves. Because just as well, some person could go and say age new is 30, for example, and it still wouldn't work because they didn't get the name right. The name is not age new, it's age. Yeah, please.
Can you add a property to the property?
Yes, you can. Definitely. Let's try that actually. So we have person 2002, right? Person 2002.age. Let's say another developer came on stage and to fix this bug and said their age is 45. Okay? And now if you run add person 2001 age, person 2002 age, you'll get the correct results. Okay? So you can add properties, and if you want to observe person 2002, you will see that it actually has the new age property as well as the old age new property and the name properties. So you can actually extend and add stuff to every object. Make sense? Sure. I just did person 2002.age equals 45. As simple as that. And it just worked. It's simple. JavaScript is really simple. And don't worry if you don't get it right away. You will over time, and will be there for you, especially in Slack. And please read through the material that I shared last week. And I expect you to go through the materials that I share with you every week to be able to keep up. All right, so I was talking about the structure, okay? That structure is called a class. Why is it called a class? Not a lot of people know. It's something related to classes in biology. I don't know what it's called when they, call a family, when they make a tree. What? Taxonomy, that's right. When they break up the genes, and according to the genes, I don't know, like they classify, yes, when they classify creatures, living creatures, they use taxonomy, and I guess class comes from there as a name, but it doesn't mean anything. But it's a name for our structures. I want to define a structure for the person objects that I want to build. And I will create a new class for person. I will create a person class, all right? So that people can use it as a template, so that they don't have to remember that it takes an age and a name all the time, so that they can move faster and easier without bugs in their code. They don't try to do something like age new. The template will basically do it for them. So let's see, how do we do that? I will delete this whole thing I wrote. You don't. Please keep them as future reference. By the way, I'm also recording the whole screen and the whole session. I will post it online, so you'll be able to watch it afterwards and go through them. So I start with the keyword class. Person, and usually class names start with a capital letter to differentiate them from regular variables. Classes are also variables, okay? But it's good to differentiate them because they are special structures in the language. So class person, and as if I'm creating an object, I'm putting curly braces, and this is basically a class definition. I can execute this, command enter, and type person, and you'll see that the response is currently an empty class. So what do you do with classes? You create new instances of these classes or of these templates. Person1 is an instance of a class, person. Person2 is another instance of the same class. They're the same thing, right? We're all equal. We all bleed red. But that's the thing. We are all people. We are all instances of a person class. And therefore, this is a special keyword, instantiation. You instantiate a new instance from a class. And how do we do that? That's very interesting as a syntax. People7 or person7 equals new person. And there you go. That's, oh, okay. The same problem, identifier person has already been declared. Why? Because again, this is like a const or a let keyword, and this time you cannot omit the class, but let me refresh this, all right? And do it like this. Const person equals class. This is another way of creating classes, which I can then omit const here, and I can, or I can type let, and I can omit let, and I can run it whenever I want. Basically, let person equals class is creating a class for me. It's the same as saying class person, let person equals class, because I told you that classes are variables, right? Actually, it's the same. You could do let person equals object that we did before, that I deleted, but that's in your files. This is also how you create a class. Let person equals class, and you just create a curly brackets. And then person7 equals new person. This is basically how you create a new person, all right? Person7, I'm not a number, I'm a free man. Does anybody listen to Iron Maiden here? Iron Maiden? 1? No one else? 2? 3? Perfect. That's one of my favorite songs from Iron Maiden. I'm not a number, I'm a free man. So yeah. Person7, do you think it has an age? It doesn't, right? Because we didn't define it. But it will in a couple of minutes. We will put properties inside, please.
So why was it again that you couldn't define it the other way?
Again, it's basically the stupidity of this environment. Okay, it will never happen again. But it happens here because I'm trying to run this code over and over again. But I created that variable once by using const. Okay, I created const person, or it's like a const class person. This is exactly equal to const person equals class. And once you do this, you cannot redeclare that variable. That's the problem. That's why I first did it with let and then removed the let. Or you can do something like this. Person equals class. And person7 equals new person. Did you follow up? Follow me until this point? Please raise your hands if you did. All right, perfect. Good, thank you. Now let's add some properties to this, all right? Yeah, please. You just refresh the page as a solution, okay? And just execute this code without let or const or whatever, which is a lot easier. I wish this were the default. And it will be gone, and then you can rerun it all the time. Make sure you don't have any const or let in your source code. All right, so as I said, this is a template, right? This is a template for my future people that I'm going to declare. So what I do is I created this person with the keyword new. I said person 7 equals new person. And nobody asked why or how this works. I basically created a new person. Come on, like this is something science is trying for thousands of years with Frankenstein as well. We created a new person from scratch. But that's the idea. This is a new object, and it's an instance of the class person. Person 7 is an instance of person class. This is a some keywords and some vocabulary that you need to get familiar with over time. But how did we create a new person? We actually constructed a person. That's another keyword. And there's a special function called Constructor. Okay? And currently it's empty. And you can pass some arguments to it. Let's say name and age. This is like a regular function that we did before. If you remember, we did the add function, right? That take 2 operands. This is the same thing. This is a function called, special function called Constructor. It has to be called Constructor all the time. And it will have name and age. Let's alert those things. Let's alert the name, for example, okay? Whenever you call this constructor function, it will alert the name of the person. And I will go, let me do it like this. I will go and say person 7, new person, and I'm passing in my name as a parameter. I run it, I get my name as a pop-up. All right, make sure you follow me. And if you don't ask questions, we still have a lot of people here to help you out. So what I did is, I wanted to alert my name, because I'm agnostic, I don't know. I get an object, person class, all right? I said new person, and here's your first parameter. That's a name. And I define it here as a constructor. This is somewhat a different syntax that you have to kind of memorize, please.
When you get straight to the button and you pass in your name to the constructor, they don't actually tell you your age.
Yes, I didn't. Why does it work?
Yeah, does this assume your age is 0?
Oh, because it just assumes that you're just careless, and it doesn't, you know, freak out when you don't give it what it wants, basically. We can access the name. So person 7 is still an empty object, all right? You cannot do person 7.name yet, because we didn't record the name inside the object yet. We just alerted it, right? I run the code, test it outside, because I didn't do anything else with the name. I want to record that name as I did with the previous objects. I want to record that name inside that variable. And how I do that is a little tricky. There's a special, again, another special keyword called this that points to the exact instance, and you can say this.name equals name. And I will go on and write this.age equals age. All right? This is the definition of my person class. and I run it. Raise your hands if you run this code and you get a similar output. Perfect. Oh, you're fast. So you already wrote the class and the assignments. That's great. But yeah, if you look at it, you'll see that age is undefined because I didn't really pass in any age, right? How do I fix that? I just go here, put a comma, and then give it my age. And it will work. Perfect. All right, so here's a quick question. This is a person that I created for once. The question is, how do I create a second person? Please. Yeah. Like this. And it works. All right? Now I want to add up the ages of these people. Add person 7.age, person 8.age, and oh, add is not defined. Let's define that. So I told you naming is hard and it's tiresome. Most of the time you'll see developers just use A, B, letters like that to indicate variables, but it's bad, don't do that. It's just bad practice. But you edit and it works, all right? Add person 7.age, person add 8.age, and it works. How did it work? I created variables here with these two lines. And if you compare it to the other version, this is much simpler to write, all right? You create the template once as a class, and you make the definition. Hey, when you want to construct this class, or when you want to construct a new instance of this class, just make sure to give it a name and make sure to give it an age, all right? And I will then assign them to the instance that I'm creating, which is denoted by the special variable this. So I do this.name equals name, this.age equals age, which is, as you can see, just taking and recording those variables within the class. And basically you get it back. Person 7, person 8, it works. This is simpler. And you can now send this person class around to your colleagues, and they will make sure to use it, and they will not make any mistakes about the structure because it just works. They don't need to redeclare name and age and stuff. They just pass in the required values and it works. All right? Any problems up until now? Raise your hand. No. Perfect. So I have individual people. All right? But what about a group? How can I group these people? How can I show them as a group? We will get there, but here's a simpler example. Let's say I want to add some interests to these people because they're like, if they're real people, they're doing something, right? They're interested in movies, music, whatever, in some stuff. So I want to keep that information as well. How do I do that? I create a new property here, this.interests equals something. Tell me if you know what it is. What I should write here. What? Yes, we write an array here. So it's called an array because what is an array? Array is again a group, a collection of values. Because we use it like an array of commands, like 10 commandments is an array of commandments actually. It's a group of things that mean something together. And I will have a couple of interests for people. Obviously, you wouldn't have only one interest, right? I like teaching, I like singing, I like playing games and going to movies. I have a lot of interests. Obviously, I need a list, a group for that. And we denote it with square brackets, which signify an array. Currently, this is an empty array. all right, because like this is the template, I will not fill it. But as my friend over there notified us, we can actually change properties of instances after we create them. So we will add interests after we create it. All right, I just create this. You see the second person that I created, Miri, 30 years of age, currently has empty interests. She has no interests at all. And the 0 is kind of tells you the number of stuff in the interests. So what you do is person 8, all right, it's here. Person 8 dot interests is here. Now I want to add some interest to this person. Person 8 dot interests is an array, which is again what? An object, that's right, but it's also something else. You know, I told you functions are also variables. Objects are variables. Classes are variables. Obviously, it would, you know, arrays would feel bad if they were not variables themselves. So they are also variables, which means it's a collection of values and other variables, and you can access them by putting a dot. All right. Person 8 dot interests dot length, for example, is the first thing that comes to mind, or this list. And if you complete it and press enter, you'll get 0 because it's empty. You know, an empty list, an empty set, also in mathematics, has 0 elements in it. But there are other important stuff that we can use, a lot of stuff here, and we'll go over them over time. But I'll use one thing here that's called push. Push is a function that is used to add values to this array. All right? I'll use push to add music to this array. Okay? I press enter. I get 1 back. Why do you think it's 1? What is 1 here? What? The number of items in the array. Yeah. Because I added 1 item. If you go and get the person 8 again, you will see that currently there is an interest there. Perfect, right? It works. I added an interest to that person. Let's add another one. What do I do? Sorry? So it's fast. That's why we're doing it again. Person 8, all right? Dot interests. I'm adding a second one. Dot push. This time I'll add movies. Push is a function, okay? It's a function that we use to add values to an existing array. And I'm adding a string. It's a function, therefore I use the braces, the parentheses, to call it, and I give it a parameter called movies, and yay. When I run this, it gives me 2. Why? Because I have 2 items now in my array. And person 8 dot interests will give me an array that's filled with those items. Okay? And person 8, if you type it, you'll see the interest has 2 items, and it's a very nice visual representation of my person object. All right, what about person 7? Person 7 has no interest yet. Let's add one. Interests, add singing. Oh, not add, obviously it's push. And person 7 has now 1 interest, and that's singing. So, this thing works, and it works well. I like it, right? Let's see if we can extend this idea of an array. Do you think we can have arrays of people? Yeah, it's just normal, right? It just follows the same principle, basically. There is actually a literal way of doing that. Let me create a new variable here. and call them a group, okay? Or let's call them instructors. And again, this was the way to create an empty array just by using square brackets and nothing in between. But I can actually give it some variables. Person 7 and person 8, all right? When I run this, you will see that instructors is actually an array with 2 different variables. Now, these are the indexes of the items, and indexes start at 0, unfortunately. We start counting from 1, but in programming, in JavaScript, indexes start from 0. So the first item in the array is the 0th item, and the second item in the array is, unfortunately, the first item. That's, again, one inconsistency between real life and programming. But you see, instructors is an array with 2 elements. Now, raise your hands if you did not get this right, these 2 things. Everybody got it? You're amazing.
Can they also raise their hand and identify their phone? It was in the bathroom.
All right, we found a phone in the bathroom. Just raise your hand if this belongs to you. Something called BQ. Why? Yeah. No problem. How do I know that it's yours? I'm just kidding. Anyway, how do you access the first element of the instructors? You write instructors and you have to give it an index, right? You have to indicate an index. It's nice. It's the square brackets again. You type 0 and it gives you the first item. You type 1, it gives you the second item, which is the other instructor. So basically we have a group of instructors right now, all right? We can actually do funny stuff with them. Like we can actually get them to tell their names to us. So please.
When you have the array with instructors, why instead of seeing the name of each object, you could only see the name of the class?
Yeah, it's basically the way of this console, how it works. It shows you the types of the variables in the short version. Because we will have a lot of classes around. We'll have like 100 of them. So it's easier to identify what that object belongs to, like what kind of a object is that. Because we'll have people and animals in the same group, like in the same household, for example. So it's good to know. All right, what was I doing? What did I tell the last? Instructors, and I told you that we're gonna do something interesting. We'll ask them to tell their names to us. The code should look like this: instructors 0, okay, which gives you the first person, dot, because that's a variable, all right? I can access its age, for example, instructor 0.age. I wanted to say name. There should be a function called say name. Obviously, it gives me an error. Instructor say name is not a function, it says, because it's not, I didn't define it yet. But this should work. This code should work. I want this to work. How do I do that? I go back to the class definition and add a new line here, right under the constructor, before the closing parentheses, closing curly brackets. I add a new method. It's called a method this time. Say name. And window.alert. What will I write inside to show the name of that person? This.name. That's right. So I added a new function, which is now called a method because it's inside a class. Functions inside classes are called methods. And it just alerts the name of the person, all right? I run it, I get the same instructors, 0, and actually it now autocompletes say name. I press enter and I get the name again. This worked. Did you get it working? Raise your hands. Cool. Now, this window alert is a little bit obtrusive, like it doesn't allow you to do anything. If you actually, like, this is really bugging me. If you want to click around, you can't, and it says, no, I'm here, just please click me first. This is not good, I don't like this. There's an alternative way of printing stuff on the screen, and that is actually by using the console, with this console, which is, again, another object, actually. So it has other properties, other variables inside, and log is one of them. If you write console.log, all right, and run instructor 0 say name, it will just print it to the console, which is kind of easier, kind of more consistent, so that you don't get a pop-up. All right. So we have some interests, we have some people, we have some instructors, and they can tell us their names. I can have person 7.say name and person 8.say name. All right, and run this code, and the console will print their names. And actually, now you see there's the file name test. I gave it a name of test, and then there is the line number, which doesn't really indicate. No, it does. Line number 9, and it shows you where this log is coming from. Test file number 9, line 9. That's really helpful when you want to debug your source code. Okay, so let's say I have 1,000 people. All right, that's my goal. I want to have 1,000 instructors here, and like you're the first step to this. How do I get the names of the 1,000 people? Will I write this, you know, for every person? Person 7 say name, person 8 say name, person 9 say name. That's a little bit tedious, right? It will be a very, very long text file, source code. There should be a better way of doing this, right? No? So, let's paraphrase the question. I want every instructor to say their names, all right? I want each and every one of the instructors to say their names. I don't want to print all of their names. I want them, each instructor, to tell me their names, to say their names. So there is a very cute, kind way of doing that. And it's actually another method on the instructors object, and it's called for each. Okay? For each is a function that, what do you think it does? Tell me, raise your hand and tell me what it does. Yeah? Yes. Yeah. It goes over the whole array one by one and runs something, a certain something inside. And let's see how we will do that. So I'm going to give it a function. The idea is it will take the function that I give it and run it through for every item. So if I have a function that will take a person and print their names, it will work here. Let's create that function. Print name equals function person say name. Does this line make sense? Raise your hand and tell me what this does, word by word, please. I want a volunteer. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. It's okay, I will help you. Please. Come on, yeah, please.
So functions called print name.
Yeah, the function is called print name.
It takes the argument person.
It takes an argument that's called person.
And it returns the say-name function based on
the person. Yeah, it returns the say-name function or the result of the say-name function based on that person. So basically, this is a function that takes a person in and prints their name, makes that person say their names. All right? Is it clear? Okay. And let's delete this for now and run this and print name. I give it person 7 and it gives me the name of that person because it just took that person in and called say name on that, right? So that's simple. Print name. Person 8. You get the name. All right? It's very easy. So what I'm going to do here, because my original goal was to get the names of every instructor, right? I will say instructors dot for each print name. And I run it. I get the names of the instructors. Wow. Is it good? Did you like it? It's kind of magical if you look at it. It's really simple. Actually, it reads very well. The first goal of software architecture, good software architecture, is your code should read well. It should make sense when you read the code, all right? Instructors for each print name. For each instructor, print name. It's as simple as this. If you remember, print name is what? Print name is a function, but print name is also a variable. So we can use it as a variable. Wherever we use variables, we can use print name. And for each actually expects a variable from you, because that's also a function. As an argument, you give it a variable.
Print name is the name of the function or the name of the return value?
Print name is the name of the function. So this is basically the same as function print name person return person say name. All right. This is almost exactly, let's say, to be correct, almost exactly the same as this line over here. And what did I tell in the first session? I told you this is cool, the new and hype way of doing stuff. And this thing, although it's easier to read and understand, is the old way and not so cool way of doing stuff. So we don't do this anymore. But it's there. Sometimes you'll use that. I'm just kidding and exaggerating, of course. But it's good to... Mart? Okay. No? Jessica?
And a question regarding
Yeah. A question regarding functions, please.
I mean, what's the, so person is like the, I mean, you can define it before, right? No, not this function, the other functions.
Print name?
Yeah.
Oh, where is it? Here. No, I didn't define it before. I'm just defining it here.
You define it there as a...
Yeah. But yeah, these are basically the same, and this is easier to write, so we prefer this one. But they would function, and pun not intended, they would function the same. But yeah, this is as simple as this. Instructors for each print name. All right? How I wrote that? How I read the code. Print name equals a function that takes a person argument and returns the output of the say name method on that person. It's a little bit long, but you'll get used to it. Like, you'll see that it's actually very, very simple. This is basically a function declaration. You could also, this is also equal to this. Print name so it's also equal to this. there are a lot of ways of creating functions or variables in JavaScript, and this is valid, this is also valid, but this one is a one-liner, it's smaller, and actually you can omit the parentheses here, so this also works, and it's, I don't know, kind of fun to write.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Could we do this without the method, say name, or instead of writing the method, say name,
just a name?
Write it in line 21, the method.
Uh-huh. So, sorry, what's the question?
There's the method,
Say name.
and the function for the name.
Oh, yes.
Could you write the method into the function?
Yes, of course. For example, we could do this. So let's look at what say name does. It does console log this name, right? We could actually do here, and that's a very valid point, we could also do console log person.name, all right? This thing would also work. Like I'm clearing the console, going back, I'm running this code, it still works. Why? Because it's basically the same thing. I just took the implementation of the say name function and put it here. But it's good to use the methods on the classes, all right?
You should tell people to refresh their browsers every now and then because there are some bugs. Whenever they refresh it, it just goes away. So just
okay. The idea is to sometimes refresh your browsers, so it will clear the console and this test page execution. So maybe if you're running into a trouble of redefined variables, etc., just refresh the browser and it will go away. If you have internet, yeah, and you run it, you get it there. All right, so let's do something else. These people are instructors, right? Actually, Miri is a real person. She would be here, but she is currently in Brussels. She'll be here next week. We're working with her at UNU. She was originally an iOS engineer and doing native Swift. And since we moved from a native application to a JavaScript application, she learned JavaScript and is currently working as a JavaScript engineer, which is awesome. Like, she kind of changed her career to a JavaScript-based stack, and that's an amazing victory, actually, for the team and for her as well to pick up the language so easily and move forward. But she's a real person and she's my friend. And I want to model this in this, is it really motion sensor? Okay, let's try next time not moving, all right? Let's see if it will stay dark. But anyway, she's my friend, and I want to model this in my person class, all right? And hopefully you are a social person and you have more than a single friend, right? Hopefully. Which means friends is actually an array. So it's not a single variable, it's an array. So we'll do this friends equals an array again. And run this, and you'll see that instructors 0, for example, has currently 0 friends. That's me. I'm sad. But I want to make new friends. Let's add it as a method. Make new or make friends with. All right? A person wants to make friends with another person. So it should be something like person 7 make friends with person 8. This should work. Okay? Currently it doesn't work because obviously I didn't implement that function, right? I didn't implement that method. But let's do that. The idea, the goal is to get this. Person 7 make friends with person 8. So if you look at it, I'm within the person class. I had a constructor and I had a sayName method. I'm adding a new one. Make friends with. And what will it take as an argument? What? Tell me. Don't be shy. It's the right answer. Just be louder. Person. Make friends with person. Because currently we only have people in our application. Obviously, if we had animals, you could be friends with animals, but we're not there yet, which will kind of be a homework for you. Anyway, so I had a friends array, and I have a method that says make friends with person. How should I go on? How should I make these people friends? What? Yeah. Like this. Facebook sends friend request. But yeah, the idea is I already have the friends array here, so I can use that. This friends dot what? Push. That's right. Person. All right. This will work, right? I run it, and person 7. Oh, let's use that here. Person 7 make friends with person 8. All right. And I go person 7 and call the friends array. There is another person. Yay! Person 7 has person 8 as a friend. I did it. Let's print person 7 from scratch. You'll see this is a person. It has a name. It has an age. It has 0 interests because we didn't specify one yet. But it has a friend, the other person. That's perfect. But there is a problem here. The other person doesn't really have a friend. So it's like a one-way. Person 8 dot friends is empty. Apparently, life is hard, and person 8 was just being polite. They really didn't want to make friends with person 7. But yeah, but this is a nice class. We want them to be happy together, and we want them to be friends together. So, although, beware, this is a very bad software practice, but I'm gonna show you right now. I'm just doing it for demo purposes. Never do this with production code. But you can actually do it like this. Person, friends, push this. This will make the relationship mutual. All right? The first line adds the new person to that person's friends array. The second one adds that person to the previous person's friends array. So I run it, and person 7.friends has that person. Person 8.friends has the other person. All right? Like this. Okay? The code is here. Person, friends, push this. Are you following me? Raise your hands. All right. I hope you raise your hands because the answer is yes and not because you just want to
ask it the other way.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But all right, but
It's going fast.
okay.
We're following.
So basically, we made these people friends, and that's a very good thing. Here's a very weird thing that I'm gonna do. Person 7. You know, there's a saying that goes like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? We're gonna do something similar to this. Person 7.friends is an array, right? Person 7.friends square bracket 0 will give me the friend of that person 7, right? 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 Okay. thank you for the feedback. Now, can I get the friends of my friend? It's a question. Yeah. How do I get it? Huh? Person7.friends square bracket 0 is an object, is a person object. Therefore, it has a property called friends. Okay? So I can do person7.friends 0.friends 0, and I get the original person because that person had only one friend. This is like an infinite loop. Like this can go on forever because they are pointing to each other. Like I'm asking this guy, who's your first friend? You. Me. Who's my first friend? Him. And like this can go on forever. Basically, I can say friends 0, friends 0, friends 0, friends 0, and I'll still get a person. I don't know how many I typed, but I get the second person. So this thing will actually work perfectly. Imagine, just imagine your own Facebook friends if they were all here in this model, and you could just, you know, go through everybody, but just by writing, you know, person7friends 0.friends5.friends3, and you could end up with a person that you don't know, or you might want to know, or who's already your friend already. It would be amazing. But obviously, that software doesn't exist, can never exist, and this is the ideal world, and this is what we're trying to mimic with databases. And there is no database, a regular relational database, that will out of the box give you a syntax like this. Just give me the first friend of person7 and the fourth friend of that person and the third friend and I don't know, the seventh friend and then the eighth friend. Unfortunately, there is no database that will give an answer to this out of the box for relational databases. Obviously, there's a notion called graph databases that can exactly do this. And unfortunately, it's not in our curriculum. But if you're interested, we can do a project about it. But anyway.
And if you just want to get the interests of the friend's friend?
Yeah, let's do that. So I have this. Let's type it a couple of more times. And, oh, interests. It's currently empty. But let's modify it. Interests push music. Okay? I don't know if it's person 7 or person 8. Person 8. Interests. There it is. So it actually works. It's just a pointer to another object. And this actually shows you that you can nest objects within other objects and you can still access all the properties. All right. This is kind of the extent of the first class. Since only 3 or 4 people went over the link that I sent on Slack, it's your homework to go over the JavaScript cheat sheet, because there are other stuff like loops and switch case statements, if-else statements. There are a lot to programming. So if you don't know those concepts, please make sure you go over the basics of that cheat sheet. And the link is still in Slack. You can use that. And because we will not go back to JavaScript basics from now on. We'll move on with Node.js and Node.js basics. So if you think you need more practice, just ping me and ping all the instructors over the week, and we'll make sure you get those basics, all right? You'll be covered. And please don't be afraid, don't worry, and don't shy away and say, no, I cannot do this, and I will not come to the next class. You will do this. It's really simple, and we'll make sure that you'll do actually. But just with the scope of what I told you today, there's another homework. So the first homework is for people who are new to programming, is to go over the JavaScript programming cheat sheet that I shared on Slack, right? The second homework is for everybody to do alone, and that is to create a model of a real-world interaction. So I created a person class here, I added friends, I added interests, I showed something. This is already a model of a person, right? I want you to take a real life thing in your life that happens maybe at the workplace, maybe at the hospital, or when you go to a theater. Just create 3-4 different classes, like person, create several methods, and make sure they interact. For example, one scenario is renting a flat. Okay? There is a person who wants to rent a flat. There is a person who rents out a flat, right? There is money involved in this. And there's a flat already. It has number of rooms. It has its area, square meters, its location, right? These could be different classes in your application. And just as I wrote the code here, but I created new people, then I changed their interests, then I made them friends with methods. Use your imagination to come up with a simple application that will model a real-life scenario. It can be, again, renting a flat, renting a car, buying a computer, going to shopping, doing the grocery, doing housework, I don't know, playing games, or teaching, or learning. Just take anything that is in your real life. Identify the classes, the templates, instantiate some variables, like person 7 and person 8, like we did here, and make sure they have a couple of methods, and it kind of works. So we will do this over the week, obviously, and show us the results over Slack. If you know GitHub, it's even better if you can put your code on GitHub. It will be your first open source contribution, maybe. That's even more crazier than learning programming. If you need help with any of this, we will be out there in Slack. Just write to us. You can mention my name, my nickname, and we will make it happen for you. So, is the homework clear? Raise your hands if it's clear. All right. Raise your hands if the homework is not clear. All right. What? All right. And yeah, maybe Iker also can help you out later. So I know that most of the students don't do homework, and I'm fine with that, okay? But if you want to grow, if you want to learn fast, you need to do this. And if you do, this is basically programming. Like if you get this homework right, if you, wait, don't move. Yes, it's really motion activated. Amazing. Yay! We're really stationary. But yeah, this is basically the essence of programming and software architecture. And it's very, very simple. It's something we did here. If you can get this right and implement more examples with this, you'll basically solve the biggest challenge of programming. The biggest challenge, what is the hardest thing in programming? Naming. Yes. Get good names for your classes, for your variables. Don't call them person 7 or 8. They are not numbers, they are people. The actual variable name should tell that person. It should be Arman and Miri. Like, this is better as variable names. I'm not a number. I'm a free man. But yeah, this is basically, and see how much it makes sense? Arman makes friends with Miri. Perfect. And instructors are Arman and Miri. Again, really, really good. And this thing still works. So, okay, I will share this example also over Slack and probably on GitHub as well. And we'll do a lot of open source contributions throughout our career for 8 weeks. And I hope I could get your interest in JavaScript, in programming, and in this style of programming. Again, if you do this right, you'll unlock the whole world of programming, because this is the hardest thing to do. To get good classes, to get good methods that do real stuff. And I want you to model real world examples. So if you have any feedback, please share them over Slack openly. Even if it's negative or positive, just please share them, because that's how we will grow, how we will learn to help you better. And I hope you liked the lecture. Thank you. Thank you.